Welcome to Podnutz, episode 15. This episode is called Business and Tech with Bryce Whitty from TechNibble. As you may have gathered from the title, Bryce from TechNibble.com is our guest today. TechNibble.com is a great resource for people interested in getting started in computer repair or who are already in computer repair and want to help expand their efforts. It's geared mainly towards the business aspect of computer repair, which does not have a lot of coverage online. So you could join the community there and get a lot of great input. And there's also a lot of actually hands-on tech advice and tech tools that he offers on the site as well. I also want to mention another site that I've recently come upon. Great resource for computer repair techs. It's called PCTechBytes.com. The owner of that site, Dave, he's another Philly guy, just like me and Mike from the Mike Tech Show. And if he's from Philly, his site has to be good. I just happened to find his site a few weeks ago. I was doing a Google search for computer repair, and his site was like second or third in the rankings, and checked it out. Was really impressed. There's a lot of great tech info there, and if you go to the forums, they're bustling. He's got thousands of members and a lot of great tech advice there. So check that out. I also put a link to his site on the homepage of podnutz.com if you need help finding it. A few more real quick announcements before we get started on the interview. We just recently became a member of the Tech Podcast Network at techpodcasts.com. Slogan for that site is, if it's tech, it's here. Check out techpodcast.com. Great place for if you're looking for tech podcasts. I know if I do a search for tech podcasts online, they're the first site that comes up. So I found out a lot of good shows from there. Last thing I want to talk about is my daily podcast. It's podnutzdaily.com. As of right now, it has been a full audio show, completely audio. And starting next week, Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Ustream, I'm going to have the show. It's only going to run about 10, 15 minutes. And I'm going to try to have some live callers on, maybe one caller a day. It's going to run Monday through Friday. So if you are around and available, go to podnutzdaily.com and you could watch a show live and then call in if you feel like it. All right, we're here with Bryce from TechNibble.com, and he is Skyping in to us from Australia, right, Bryce?
Yes, how are you, Steve?
Doing good. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. I think you're my first guest from Australia, so this ought to be good. And by the way, the Skype connection sounds awesome. It's like completely no noise or anything, so it's amazing what Skype can do.
Yeah, it also helps that we've both got fairly decent broadband, so that's always an issue, I suppose.
Yeah. And what kind of mic are you using?
Just a standard headset.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Okay, Bryce, so you started TechNibble.com. Why don't you tell us what that is to start off, and then, why and how you started that?
Well, TechNibble's designed to be a resource for computer technicians. Pretty much the main idea behind it is there's a lot of people who have a lot of computer knowledge. Some of the people I've met are actually really quite amazing, far beyond what even a lot of normal technicians would know. But the problem is they don't know the first thing about business. They just don't know a single thing. So that's pretty much why TechNibble was created.
Cool. So I take it you have your own computer repair business.
Yes, I pretty much work on my computer business by day, and by night I spend my time on writing for TechNibble.
How did you start your business, Bryce?
Pretty much started out. I started when I was 17, and a lot of it, and I came from a job from a family friend. I can't remember what the issue was, but it was something relatively basic. I went over there, and I think I charged something really low, like $35 or something, and I got that fixed. And being 17, I was pretty happy to make my $35, and I thought, hey, I can really do something out of this. I got a few more jobs from that client a couple of weeks later, and I thought, hey, might put some ads in the newspaper and see how I go. They were just some cheap $90 ads, and that ended up working pretty well for me. And it really just went from there. I've actually come up to the point where I don't need to advertise as much as I once did. I still do, but I'm up to a point where I'm living off mostly referral work and a lot of my old clients.
Oh, that's great. The ads that you originally put, were they in a classified section of a paper, or?
Yeah, just the class. I think it was the trade section of the local weekly paper.
Okay.
I found that worked out better for me because they seem to sit around the house a lot more. Whereas if it's sort of if you're putting a ad in, say, the daily paper, it just gets tossed out pretty quick. That one day later, the paper's useless, so they don't really read that one. So I find the weekly ones actually work a lot better.
Oh, that's a good tip. Is that the advertising you still use now?
Only not as much as I once did, but I still have to keep advertising. Although I keep pretty busy now, the problem with advertising is that it usually takes a few weeks for it to kick in. So even though I'm busy now, it may not be busy later. So I have to keep advertising even when I am busy.
Right. Do you just use one form of advertising, or do you just use different methods? When I first started out, I also did a little bit of letterbox drops. I'm not too sure if that's legal in America, but in Australia it is. I used to go around the rich suburbs, and I think mainly because they had a lot of the rich suburbs had people who already had businesses and used computers at home to run their own businesses. Right.
And I think a lot of them also appreciate the fact that you need to spend money to make money. And I dropped a lot of letters, mail outs in there, and that brought a pretty good turnaround. I still do that a little bit occasionally, but it's just a lot of walking work, and it takes a little while to kick in. I had people who called me about a year later on those sort of advertising.
Wow. Yeah, the more I sit in my shop and work on computers, the more weight I put on. So maybe that might be a good form of advertising for me for the future.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of walking, I suppose, is good for a lot of computer technicians. We do tend to spend a bit too much time sitting down.
That's true. Well, did you actually put it like letters in an envelope, or was it like a flyer or a postcard kind of thing?
It was just a flyer. Also, I found that putting them in on the right days can also help. A lot of countries have a certain mail day. It might be like a Tuesday or a Thursday or something. If you can actually separate it from that time, so if your mail day is, say, a lot of it comes in on a Tuesday, you might want to put it on a Friday. That way it doesn't appear next to all the other junk mail, and they're a bit more likely to notice it. Good
tip. So what's your favorite form of advertising now? I mean, if it's a secret, you don't have to tell us, but...
probably word of mouth. It's just coming a recommendation from somebody else they know and trust will always be best. But as far as paid advertising, I still actually like the weekly papers.
Good.
I found that the big mainstream sort of the big national papers and all that just didn't work for me.
Huh. Oh, that's good. Because I don't do any advertising to papers. That's good to know.
I think half the secret with advertising is knowing what works for you. Like if I could say to you that, I just did that.